Hey everybody, I'm so
Hello.
happy that Tana invited me to be on a live chat with her. We're on a
I think
date.
I think you just did it so I don't rant.
We were on a date last night, and I saw on my phone about what happened in Pennsylvania. When
Now, why he would hand me his phone to read that while we're on a date, and you know me? Like, I'm still wondering about that.
It got you fired up.
Got me fired up.
Anyways, we were just horrified by what we read about 301 priests who had systematically, over a long period of time, molested really
raped,
what was
raped and
thousands
molested and created
of
child pornography
children.
and circulated it.
It was horrifying. So what we want to talk to you about is, we think of it as the four circles of evil. How does evil happen? Here at Amen Clinics, we've actually scanned about 1,000 convicted felons, over 100 murderers, many child sexual predators, and why? What is that about?
You're getting me all riled up.
So when we talk about four circles, we're always talking about what are the biological underpinnings of violence, what are the psychological contributors, the social factors, and the spiritual factors. All of that matters.
So I think it's really important, before we go too far with this, to say, I mean, personally, I think this has very little to do with religion. I mean, that sounds crazy because it's the Catholic Church. I think this can happen, and it has happened in many different types of organizations, many different religions, many countries. My question is, why does it how do you get people, that many people, to agree to do something truly horrific and evil? Like, how does it happen?
And so we probably should start with the social circle. That there is a structure that has been in place, that has approved it, that has protected it, that has condoned it.
That there was more concern with protecting the organization over protecting the children.
And it's clearly toxic when the people you serve are being hurt, that there's just a culture of sin. A culture of evil, allowing that to be perpetuated. And I know the Pope has talked about it, and I grew up Catholic. I was an altar boy. Your mom grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school, and I'm grateful that never happened to me or to people I know, but it's clearly been rampant within the Catholic Church. So there is a social, cultural component, and in a spiritual setting, these people are clearly spiritually bankrupt.
Which sounds kind of crazy because it's church, but I don't care what it is.
But
They're
your
spiritually.
father was a pastor,
And he had a period of being spiritually bankrupt, no question. They're still human, right? They're still people. So they're subject to whatever, everyone else is subject to, as far as, we hold them in higher esteem, but the reality is they're still subject to the same problems. So.
And clearly there are biological factors among predators. They often have low function in the front part of their brain, so they don't have empathy. They are not seeing clearly what their behavior is doing to their victims. They have a lack of empathy. But what I've also seen among predators is they're also obsessive. So they have what I call an impulsive low frontal lobe activity, compulsive high frontal lobe activity in other parts of their frontal lobes, so they get stuck on negative thoughts and negative behaviors.
But then, it just begs the question, I'm sorry to I agree with you on what you're saying, but then that makes me wonder, okay, so if predators have a certain profile, a certain way that their brains look, a certain biology, then does that mean that the predators are drawn to this organization because it's accepted, or the organization is creating this somehow happening within the people within its organization.
Well, I don't know about creating, but clearly when you condone a behavior, you increase the likelihood that it's going to happen. And then from a biological standpoint,
Because that's a lot of people to get to agree.
celibacy is not a natural state, and so those natural biological urges are going to come out in perverted ways.
Yeah, that's just, I'm still stuck on the 301.
But it's 301, and probably it's 5 times that.
Right.
The people who've
It's
not
probably
been
more.
caught.
Because
But-
what is the saying?
But
If
out
you-
of the tens of thousands of priests, it's not clearly. It's like saying all of the police officers that have done bad things, well, all police officers are bad. No, that's a psychological
No, but these are 301
distortion.
that we know about, which
Right.
means there's probably a lot more
A
that
lot
we
more.
don't know about.
But it's still a low percentage.
Okay,
of
I don't
priests.
want to go there.
I know you don't.
No, because I want to talk about how do you
Because
get
this
301
issue
to agree.
Is so explosive.
Yeah, because
that-
I'm a mom.
But what we want to do, except you, is take this rational approach. Because if you don't think
No.
through it, then you can't solve.
No.
the issue.
No.
Okay, well, you provide the emotional gasoline.
I'm a mom. Okay,
And I'm a dad.
no, I'm sorry.
Who's going to go kill the people that molest their children? It's often the fathers that do it. So just because you're a mom,
Oh no, there's a lot
dads
of grandmothers who
care
do it.
about
Okay,
this
so
as well, and I get how emotionally upsetting, how furious. I mean, that's why I handed you my phone. I'm like, can you believe
So I-
this?
but I have
It's
a question.
horrible.
did the families of these kids did it not come out for so long? Did they not figure it out for so long because they trusted the church? Like I'm trying to figure out how these parents
because
didn't
of
know.
Trust. Because
I don't
of
trust
how-
anybody, so I'm just trying to
because of
figure it
how
out.
busy people are these days. So it's trust, it's busyness, and
Like, I know-
often what happens with child sexual abuse is the predators threaten to not only kill the children but to kill everybody in their family. So they are great at picking vulnerable children and then manipulating their minds so that they don't
And in this
say
case,
anything.
they marked the children for abuse by putting a gold cross around their necks. That's how they chose. That way, everyone in the
And they would
organization
choose.
knew who the next victim was, who the marked ones were, if
And
you
they
will.
would choose vulnerable children, right? No, it's horrible. And there are also psychological factors that go into abuse. People that are often narcissistic, it's about them. It has nothing to do with the feelings of their victims. I mean, this is clearly a disturbed situation. And the number one most important thing we need to do is expose it, root it out, deliver punishment, but also at the same time try to understand why behaviors happen so you can do something about it.
So I agree with all of that, but I'm going to add something to that. We live in a world where this stuff happens. So one thing I've always done, I mean, that's the part I'm struggling with. I think because I spend so much time with my daughter, I wouldn't leave her somewhere, and so I'm struggling with this idea of not knowing. I also spend so much time talking to her. These topics are very open in our home. We talk about all this stuff so openly. So I think really what's really important, besides what you just said, your kids need to be so well informed. I know these topics are hard to talk about, but they're critical. You've got to talk to your kids about what to do, how to prepare them. There's a really great book called The Gift of Fear. I love that book. It's a really good book. Things like martial arts, you all know I practice martial arts because it's empowering. It helps you walk in a way, talk in a way, hold yourself in a way that you don't stand or talk or act like a victim. But having that open communication, being able to protect yourself, and as parents, being aware of what's going on in your kids' lives, regularly.
And you're masterful at spending time with Chloe every day, but you have one. So I grew up in a family of 7 children.
Fair. That's fair enough.
I was
Yeah.
lucky to get 20 minutes a week alone
Yeah, that's hard.
with my mom And so if I had something going on of this kind of intensity, well, one, growing up Catholic, there was a fair amount of guilt and shame associated if you did not do the right thing. So if we hadn't built a relationship where I would talk about these things, and growing up, I didn't have that kind of relationship with either my mom or dad. So what you have done, and I have done with Chloe, is we give her an environment where we talk about our vulnerabilities, we talk about safety, and we have a good connection. But I didn't have that. I guess many of you, if you grew up in big families, you didn't have that
I
either.
understand
So
that.
what are the things victims can do to recover? And it's these 4 circles, right? It's getting your brain right that we talk about and you talk about on your page all the time. It's getting your mind right. So we talk about killing
Well,
the
you need
ants.
to get professional help with it.
And there is a psychological treatment we like a lot called EMDR.
So-
Stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocess. Specific psychological treatment for trauma.
So, and one thing that I want to talk about is I actually did EMDR. It's one of your first gifts to me, which I'm like, I'm not sure how to take that, but we were dating.
Loved you and wanted you to be as
So-
psychologically healthy as I could.
So I was molested as a child.
Did it work?
It did. It was amazing. I was molested as a child. Now I come from a family where my mom made it clear she'd kill anybody who hurt me. So I come from that background where we talk about everything. We're very open about it. It's not my fault, and she's going to kill anyone who does it. So
And
that's
as soon as it started, you talked to her about it
immediately,
and she stopped.
and she shut it down before it went very far. So I was one of the lucky ones, and I think that's why this like makes me so angry, because of just my own history, my own background.
One, it should make you angry, but because of your background, it really lights the fire
Right.
to.
So I really want to
address
speak
it.
to the people who have been victims. EMDR was super helpful. I think being able to talk to someone professionally is huge. And then,
Right, and it doesn't mean you don't go back to church, because God didn't do it, and God didn't condone it. That being with a body of believers, but in a healthy way, can be really helpful. Purposeful people who are connected with churches of any faith, live longer. They heal faster than other people. So there are biological things you can do, psychological, social, and spiritual.
and I think one of the things that you're touching on with being connected to a community of, that has faith is when you believe in something bigger than yourself and you are connected to that, it actually does help you heal.
Okay.
So-
So leave your questions. For us, we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. And
One
always
last
there
thing.
is-
Sometimes after you get through the acute phase of treatment and healing, helping others, I think is really helpful. I know that's been critical for me.
No question.